We think of Christmas, of course, as the commemoration of Jesus' birth, which it is in part. But the festival, as we know, is just as much, if not more, a product of ancient Roman paganism.
Every winter, from at least the 2nd century BC and likely many centuries before then, the ancient Romans held a major festival called the Saturnalia. During this celebration, among other things, the Romans had huge parties. They decorated their houses with greens and gave each other gifts. The Saturnalia began on December 17th and lasted about a week. It was followed on December 25th by the birth date of the pagan god Mithras, a celebration known as the birth of the unconquered sun. That was followed a couple days later by their New Year celebration called the Calends. It was an extremely popular time of year across the Roman Empire.
The Christians, meanwhile, in the 1st century and beginning of the 2nd century, think the world's going to end soon, like Wednesday at noon. And so they're not really worried about festivals and holidays and commemorating events in Jesus' life because, well, we've got 2 weeks to go, or maybe 2 years, but not very long. The decades go by, and they start thinking, well, the world isn't going to end quite so quick after all. And then they start thinking about, well, and this is partially, by the way, because they lived in the Roman pagan empire, in which the rhythm of the year is partially agricultural, but it's also partially religious. And they're part of that rhythm as well. So then we start thinking about, well, we need to commemorate things in our lives too. We need to have the religious rhythm of the year as a substitute to the pagan rhythm of the year. And one of the obvious candidates for this as well, when was Jesus born?
Of the 2 Gospels that tell the story of the birth of Christ, neither one mentions the month or the year that the event happened. But as a result, the early Christians have to come up with a date of their own. For a number of reasons, a couple of options are thrown out there, including May 20th, March 25th, and of course, December 25th.
How did December 25th win out? Well, we don't know exactly, but most likely what's going on is the church is living in this pagan environment, and it's trying to keep people within the church, it's trying to attract more people. And the most beloved event in the pagan calendar, the most beloved festival, is the Saturnalia, plus the birth of the unconquered sun on December 25th, plus the Calends, this wonderful liberating festival in the bleak, dark, dismal, dead winter. And what we think happened, though we have no direct evidence, is essentially they decide, well, we're going to go head-to-head. We're going to compete. We'll pick December 25th, not to avoid the pagan holiday, but to go right up against it. And it wouldn't be anything they'd be ashamed of. You can almost imagine a meeting of bishops saying, well, let's not dodge. Let's go head-to-head. Let's compete in the marketplace. Let's show our stuff. It's better for you.
Timothy O'Donnell says a lot of those traditions found in festivals like Saturnalia were perfect tools that early Christians could use to draw people into their religion. Much of the pagan symbolism was baptized, in a sense, by the Christians and recast to illustrate the power they saw in Jesus Christ.
The Romans would light their houses and, give gifts, and different ranks were put aside. It harkens back to a golden time. Well, of course, for the Christians, to associate something like that, a golden time, where gifts would be given, the gift of God-giving Son, the Christ, the light that you would put light in the bones or illuminate them with oil. And this would all be sort of a natural thing, that would just fit in so beautifully with the light coming into the darkness. December, sort of the darkest month, the shortest day of the year. December 25th is when the sun clearly is on a rebound and the days are just starting to get longer. So it would easily identify, not in a pagan way, but in the sense of the sun as a symbol of Christ. You see what I'm saying? And then all the gift-giving and everything that was part of the Roman celebration of Saturnalia would have been a big part of that as well.
The complication and how it affects Christmas as we know it is it would be nice to be able to say to the folk who are celebrating the Saturnalia and the birthday of the unconquered sun, well, now you're Christians, you're going to celebrate them in a completely different way. And all of that stuff that you thought was gambling and the drinking and the carousing in the street and the role reversal and the social subversiveness, all is gone now. Forget about it. Well, it doesn't work that way. You can't wash all that out of the holiday. And so what happens is when the church decides on December 25th and tries to substitute the birth of Christ, Christmas essentially, for the birth of the unconquered sun, Mithras, some of that celebration gets dragged into Christmas. And so things that we do today as part of Christmas, such as giving gifts, that's from the Saturnalia and that's from the Calends. The kind of banquet, that too. Most of the party elements, those are drawn in. Some of these other elements, like getting drunk and going out on the streets and doing who knows what, that kind of comes along as well. So you have the line and say, no, we don't want that to cross, but it crosses anyway.
As a result, earlier Christmas celebrations were a bit different than the ones we celebrate today. While there was still a religious connotation to the holiday, it was also very much seen as a time to just let loose and blow off steam, much like we do today on New Year's Eve.
Really not till we get industrialization